Hi, I'm Reverend Emmanuel. I want to talk today about this coronavirus epidemic, and especially with an aspect of how it's causing people to be anxious and how to maybe deal with that anxiety from a Christian lens. So I was talking with two friends yesterday who were anxious about how this coronavirus epidemic was playing out, which totally makes sense. Coronavirus is at least 10 times as deadly as the flu. Multiple governments have declared emergencies. Cities have shut down multiple social gathering events, all the way from church services to citywide celebrations. So, in this time of crisis, in this time of uncertainty, brings up a sense of anxiety in us. How do we deal with that sense of anxiety? So what's happening with this coronavirus epidemic and the way it's panned out is the ability of us to deny death has gone, because in a sense it has put death in our doorstep, so to speak, causing more anxiety. So Thomas A. Kempis was Archbishop of Cologne. He wrote this book called Imitation of Christ. He says, "Happy is the man who always remembers the hour of his death in front of his eyes." Happy is the man who keeps the hour of his death always in front of his eyes. In the pre-modern world, the idea of death was always there for people to see. In fact, when you look at multiple paintings, you have paintings of like young, handsome men with a skull in their hand to remind people, hey, you might think everything is fine, but death is always in front of you. You have paintings where there's beautiful flowers with a skull there. There is actually a Albert Dürer painting of Saint Jerome, in which Saint Jerome is holding a book, and in front of him is a skull, and he's pointing his forefinger to the skull. So why is all this? Why were the pre-modern people doing all this? Was it just some sense of superstition, or was there something going on? The historian Paul Johnson says, "Nothing concentrates the mind like death." Nothing concentrates the mind like death. You see, when people encounter death, it helps them to focus on what is most important in their life. Let me give you an example. In 2012, when the third Batman movie was released, The Dark Knight Rises, there was a shooting in one of the theaters in Colorado, I believe in Aurora, Colorado. After the shooting, they were interviewing the survivors. They interviewed a guy who actually said after the shooting, he went and proposed to his girlfriend immediately and got engaged. And when the reporter was asking him, so what made you do that? He said, when I had this encounter, when I realized I could have been dead, it helped me to prioritize, it helped me to know what was it in my life I truly, truly valued. You see, he realized getting engaged with this girl and being married to her was the one thing that he valued the most. So when that happened, it gave him the sense of clarity of intention that helped him to focus and know what he truly valued and do it, right? So that's what we call a sense of the remembrance of death being a spiritual discipline that helps us to know what we value and what we care about. You see, in the Gospel of Matthew, in chapter 6, when Jesus says, "Don't worry, don't be anxious," he just doesn't say, "Don't worry, don't be anxious because the birds are all fine. Look at the birds, look at the flowers." He doesn't stop there. Oftentimes when we look at that passage, we kind of stop there, but he doesn't do that. Jesus goes on and says in verse 35, "Don't worry, but seek God's kingdom first, and all these things will be given to you." You see, what he's doing there is the antidote for anxiety and worry is not just thinking about birds and the flowers, that is a part of it, but the antidote for worry and anxiety is to invest ourselves in something that we value, invest ourselves in something that we care about, that furthers God's kingdom of love and peace in this world, so that God's name is glorified. When we do that, we get away from this sense of self-absorption and get involved in a bigger project. that helps us to know that, hey, we are living in a bigger kingdom of love and peace that God has called us into. So that's one aspect of it. Use this death as a way of reminding you what you truly value and care about, so that you can invest in that. Secondly, this coronavirus epidemic is also causing a lot of social disruption, with cities and churches and different places canceling a lot of social gathering events. This is creating more space for people to be by themselves. And oftentimes what happens is, when you're by yourself and you have nothing else to do, it brings up a sense of anxiety in people, a sense of worry about the future. And here I want to say, think about this as a time of rest. That is one way to think about this. A sense of a Sabbath rest, if you will. When God first instituted Sabbath for Israel, He said, hey, 1 in 7 days, take time to just rest, do nothing. That seventh day was not a day for them to go to church or the synagogue. The seventh day was just for them to say, hey, I'll just do nothing. And there was a spiritual or a psychological principle behind this, and that principle is trust. Basically, God was telling Israel, hey, you can trust me that even though you do nothing, you'll still be okay. So take this practice of just rest, doing nothing, as a way of knowing that, hey, you can trust me that I'm in control and all your provisions would still be provided for. Right? So that's an important aspect. So I'll give you what may seem like a trivial example. Every month I do a monthly movie event, and because of the coronavirus scare, we ended up having to cancel that. And that caused some anxiety and worry in me. I was thinking, okay, what will the people that wanted to come and were not able to come, what will they think? And if we stop this, will it kind of lose the momentum we were trying to build in having this monthly movie group? And then I had to remind myself, hey, this is something that I have to trust God with. That even though this is getting canceled, people may not feel good about it, we may lose some momentum, but ultimately God is powerful enough to bring something good out of that. As Paul says in Romans 8:28, God works all things for the good of those that love Him. So that aspect of trust. So use this time as a way, use this time as a space to think about this as a time of rest, a time of Sabbath that is helping you to build a sense of trust in God. Spend this time with people that you truly love and care about. Getting together in small groups is okay, as far as the guidelines that we've gotten from the medical community and the government. And thirdly, this coronavirus also reminds me of the Christian history. In the 3rd century in the Roman Empire, when there were plagues in different villages, if a village got plague, everyone would flee. Even the government officials would flee. The people that stayed behind to take care of the sick were people that were left behind by the church to say, hey, you stay behind and take care of the people here. In fact, we have sermons by bishops back in the 2nd and the 3rd century, especially Dionysius of Alexandria, who encouraged and admired the Christians who would stay behind to take care of the sick. When Christians stayed behind to take care of the sick, it meant that they would be the last people to die. But he called Christians to do it because every human being was made in God's image and they needed care. And Christians were the ones to provide that care, because we have the hope that our citizenship is not in this world. Our citizenship is in the next world, which means we can invest our lives to care for people around us. So that's the third aspect I want to talk about. Our way of getting outside of our anxiety is to serve people around us. I was talking once with my spiritual director. I was having some anxiety about something, I was frustrated about something, and I was stuck in that for a little bit. And my spiritual director told me, hey, your way out of this anxiety or this frustration is just go to a soup kitchen and serve the homeless who are there. You see, when we are anxious, oftentimes we need to get out of ourselves to go out and serve other people as a way of getting out of our preoccupation with our own problems. And with coronavirus, as Christians, there are so many ways we could do this. One, don't hoard stuff from grocery stores. Let other people have more food. Two, if somebody needs babysitting or something because they want to go to work, give your time to do that. Thirdly, there are so many organizations that need more volunteers because everybody's scared and everybody's backing off. As Christians, we are not called to withdraw from the society. We are called to invest in society the way Christ invested in us to create this kingdom of love and peace that ultimately brings glory to God through Jesus Christ by the power of the Holy Spirit. So here's the bottom line. The coronavirus epidemic and how it has played out is causing us a lot of anxiety and worry, and that is legitimate. If you find yourself feeling anxious or worried, please don't judge yourself. There is nothing wrong with feeling anxious and worried. What I am saying is, from a Christian theological perspective, how to deal with this anxiety and worry is an important question. From a Christian theological perspective, one of the ways in which we can deal with this anxiety and worry is to think of this time as Sabbath rest, to rest and trust that God is going to work everything out in a way that works for His ultimate good. Spend this time with people that you love and care about. If there's someone that you love and care about who you've not talked to for a while, talk to them. Talk to them over the phone or meet with them for coffee if you want to. Meeting in small groups is okay, is what we are told. Two, use this spiritual discipline of remembrance of death as something that will help you to identify what you truly value, as something that concentrates your mind and gives you a clarity of intention of what you value and care about. And thirdly, serve people around you. Part of coronavirus, this epidemic means there are so many people that are suffering in different ways, and in ways that are healthy, in ways that create a kingdom of love and peace. Serve people around you in whatever form you can. These are the three ways. Take rest. Use this remembrance of death as a way to know what in life you truly care about. 3, serve people around you in a Christ-like way so that you get away from your preoccupations and invest yourself in a kingdom of love and peace that God wants to create. Don't worry, don't be anxious. Seek first God's kingdom, and all these things will be added unto you. So, until I see you in the next video, bye for now.